Ryan's ship drifted through the black sea of stars like a tired old bird trying to stay in the air. It was called the Drift, and the name fit it perfectly. Plates of metal rattled when the engines hummed. The lights flickered every few minutes. The cargo hold smelled like old oil and rust. But to Ryan, it was home. He was not a great captain or a famous trader. He was a junkman who roamed the edge of the Orion Fringe, buying broken things and trying to sell them for a little more. The big trading guilds laughed at people like him. They said small traders were better off staying on planets and scraping metal from landfills. But Ryan believed the stars still had space for dreamers, even the ones who could not afford fancy ships. The Drift came out of a slow jump near a crowded space station that orbited a red world named Thal. The planet below was dusty and dead, but the station was full of noise, lights, and deals. This was the kind of place where one could buy almost anything. Ryan came here every few months to trade his collected junk and look for something new. He docked his ship and stepped into the metal corridors of Thal Station. Merchants shouted about spare parts, weapon cores, and food packs. Drones flew between stalls carrying boxes and data slates. The smell of fuel and cooked food mixed in the air. Ryan smiled as he moved among them. He had a small crate of scrap alloy and engine chips to sell. Nothing special, but enough to trade for what he needed. His boots clanked on the walkway as he entered. A narrow alley where the smaller traders stayed. He liked this part of the market because it was quieter and full of surprises. Sometimes people sold broken machines, old relics, or things they did not understand. That was how Ryan once found a gravity plate worth 10 times what he paid. He stopped at a dusty stall run by an old alien with blue scales and tired eyes. The sign above said clearance sale. Everything must go. On the table were cracked helmets, burned-out batteries, and bits of ship armor. "Got anything that still works?" Ryan asked with a grin. The alien hissed softly. "Nothing for your kind, human, unless you like trash." Ryan shrugged. "Trash is what I trade in." The alien tilted his head and then waved a hand. "Fine, if you like trash, go to the back room. There's a pod there. Old thing. Worthless. Been sitting for years? Curious." Ryan stepped behind the stall. The back room was dim and smelled of rust and stale air. In the corner stood a large stasis pod covered in dust. The glass was fogged, and faint blue lights flickered around the edges. A small tag on the side read Lift Class Titan Failed Unit. Ryan rubbed the glass, clearing the fog, and froze. Inside the pod lay a massive figure shaped like a woman, but taller and broader than any human. Her skin looked metallic but soft, like a mix of flesh and steel. Silver lines ran along her arms. She looked asleep, peaceful, almost like a statue carved by ancient hands. He called back to the alien. "You said it's worthless. What is she?" The alien shrugged. "A relic, some old biotech experiment from the war centuries ago. They made them to carry heavy loads or fight. This one never woke up right. Drains power, not worth keeping." The guild refused to buy it. Ryan studied the pod again. Something about it pulled at him. The shape of her face, the calm expression. The idea that she had been left forgotten, for who knew how long? He checked the tag more closely. The systems were damaged but not dead. "How much?" he asked. The alien laughed. "Can't fix that thing, human. Even if you could, she'd crush your little ship." Ryan grinned. "Maybe, but I'll take the risk." "How much?" The alien waved his claws. "Give me whatever junk you brought. The pod is heavy. I'll be glad to clear the space." Ryan didn't argue. He went back to the Drift, brought his crate of scrap and old engine chips, and traded everything for the pod. As loaders moved it to his ship, other merchants chuckled and whispered behind his back. "He bought a corpse," someone said. "Humans and their strange ideas," said another. Ryan ignored them. As the pod settled into the cargo bay of the Drift, he looked at it with quiet excitement. "She'll carry crates," he muttered to himself with a small smile. He spent the next few hours running diagnostics. The pod systems were weak, but he could see signs of life inside. The readings were faint yet steady. He connected the pod to the ship's main reactor, letting it feed on power. The lights grew brighter, and the glass cleared slowly. Then her eyes opened. Ryan stepped back in shock. The Giantess blinked once, then twice. Her gaze moved across the cargo bay before focusing on him. Her voice, deep and soft, filled the space. "Where am I?" Ryan swallowed. "You're on my ship?" "I found you on Thal Station. You were in stasis." She looked at her hands, flexing the massive fingers. "I was sleeping." "For how long?" He checked the pod's data screen. "Records say over 200 years." She seemed to think about that. "My designation is Kira. I was created for heavy labor and defense duty." "Why did you wake me?" Ryan hesitated, then said honestly, "I thought you deserved a chance. The traders said you were broken, but I didn't believe them. Maybe I was right." Kira looked at him quietly. Her eyes glowed faintly blue. "You risked your ship's energy for me." He smiled. "It's an old ship anyway. It could use a little life." She rose from the pod, standing tall enough to almost touch the ceiling. Her steps made the metal floor echo. Ryan felt a mix of awe and fear. She moved with strength but also care, as if she understood how fragile the ship was. "Your vessel is damaged," she said, scanning the walls with her eyes. "Structural weakness on the port side. Power leaks in 3 circuits. I can repair some of it." "Can?" Ryan asked. She nodded. "If you provide tools and access." He led her to the maintenance room. For the next hours, Kira worked in silence. Fingers became tools, reshaping plates and welding gaps. She lifted parts that Ryan could barely move. Sparks flew, but she didn't flinch. The ship stopped creaking. The engine sounded smoother. Ryan watched in wonder. The drift had never felt so alive. When she finished, she stood beside him, wiping metal dust from her arms. "The repairs are temporary. Your ship is very old." Ryan laughed softly. "So am I, in a way." Kira tilted her head, studying him. "You are not like the others who made me." He frowned. "The others." She looked distant. "The ones who created us saw us only as tools. When a unit failed, they melted it down. You did not do that." Ryan leaned against the wall. "I don't see the point of throwing things away. If everything has some value left, even if people can't see it." Kira looked around the ship again. "Then maybe I still have value." "You do," he said firmly. That night, if night could be called in space, Ryan sat in the control chair while Kira rested near the cargo bay. He thought about what he had done. He had traded all his junk. All his savings for a giant machine woman who might not even stay with him. But he did not regret it. When he looked at the stars through the cockpit glass, he saw new possibilities. Maybe he could do more than just collect scrap. Maybe the drift could become something greater. The next day, Kira walked into the cockpit. "I ran diagnostics on your navigation. You have an unregistered beacon signal near your route. It might be a lost cargo pod. You could check it." Ryan smiled. You plan to stay?" And she gave a small nod. "For now. I owe you for waking me. And I wish to see the stars again." Ryan adjusted the controls. "Then welcome aboard, Kira." As the ship turned toward the beacon, the stars streaked past in lines of light. Ryan felt a strange sense of peace. For the first time in years, he was not alone in the void. Kira stood beside him, silent but calm. She seemed to belong there, a guardian of metal and memory. Neither of them knew what waited at that beacon, but something had already changed. The ship that had once been a dying wreck now pulsed with new energy. The human trader and the sleeping giantess had begun a story that would soon echo across the stars. Ryan looked at her and said, "See what the universe wants to throw at us next." Kira's faint smile was the only answer he needed. The drift surged forward into the dark, its engines glowing brighter than ever before. The stars outside stretched in long lines as the drift sailed through the dark of space. Ryan adjusted the controls, feeling the gentle hum of the engines beneath his hands. He stole glances at Kira, who moved with quiet precision in the cargo bay. She had begun to understand the ship's layout faster than he expected, her massive hands manipulating tools with skill and care. For a human like Ryan, life in the fringe was unpredictable. One day, you might find a rare metal pod. The next pirates might be waiting in a nearby asteroid belt. But having Kira aboard changed everything. She was not only strong, but also alert. He felt safer, even in the farthest reaches of space, where danger often came without warning. "Ryan," Kira said from the cargo bay, her voice deep and even, I detect irregular readings on the beacon. It is not just a lost cargo pod. There is energy interference, likely a defense system. Ryan leaned back, squinting at the holographic display. Defense system? So we might be walking into trouble? Kira's eyes glowed faintly as she scanned the ship's sensors. It is possible. If you proceed carefully, we may reach it safely. But we must be ready to react. He smiled faintly. That sounds like my kind of adventure. The ship adjusted its course. The beacon signal grew stronger. Soon, a small cluster of derelict ships appeared, floating like ghosts among a belt of asteroids. Metal twisted, hulls broken, and panels missing. Yet the ships still emitted faint energy. Look at that, Ryan said, awe in his voice. Someone abandoned these ships a long time ago. Kira's gaze swept across the derelicts. No, they were not abandoned. These vessels were disabled intentionally. Whoever left them wanted to prevent recovery. I detect traces of energy fields still active. They may react if we get too close. Ryan's hands tightened on the controls. Then we move carefully. I don't want to join them in the scrap pile. Kira moved to the side, her long limbs folding easily into the available space. I will monitor the fields and adjust our shields accordingly. You focus on piloting. The human and the giantess worked together like a single mind. Ryan guided the drift through narrow gaps between floating metal, avoiding energy pulses that could tear through their hull. Kira's voice remained calm, giving precise instructions. Every warning and correction prevented damage to the ship. 20 meters to starboard, she said. Adjust trajectory slowly. Ryan followed her direction. The engines roared gently, and the ship shifted without a single scrape. He felt a mixture of relief and admiration. The Giantess was more than a helper. She was a partner in a place where one wrong move could end life instantly. As they approached the center of the cluster, a massive cargo pod floated alone, its exterior scratched and scorched. Faint lights blinked on its side, indicating life support systems still functioning. That is the beacon source, Ryan said. Looks like someone tried to hide it. Kira moved closer to the cargo bay's controls. Her fingers brushed the interface, and a panel unfolded, projecting detailed schematics of the pod. The container is sealed with energy locks. I can open it, but it will require direct physical interface. I am capable of doing this safely. Ryan nodded. Go ahead. I trust you. With deliberate care, Kira lifted the pod with one massive hand and attached her interface directly. The locks hummed as she analyzed their energy signature. Sparks flickered, and the metal groaned under her strength, but she adjusted slowly. In minutes, the pod opened. Inside was a small bundle of equipment and supplies, neatly packed. Among them, Ryan noticed a strange device, a map, with glowing coordinates pointing to a nearby system he had never visited. This is valuable, he said. Could be the start of a real trading route? Kira nodded. There are also automated defense modules. They are inactive now, but they could trigger if removed incorrectly. It is fortunate I interfaced directly. Ryan stepped closer, examining the equipment. You are incredible. Not just strong, but precise. You could have crushed it, but you didn't. Kira's gaze softened. Destruction is easy. Control and precision are rare. Humans value precision more than strength. I have learned this from you already. The next few hours were spent transferring supplies into the drift. Kira lifted heavy crates effortlessly, stacking them in the cargo hold while maintaining balance in the small space. Ryan worked alongside her, securing equipment and ensuring the ship's systems were stable. The teamwork was seamless, as if the ship itself responded to their combined effort by the time they finished. The station's sun rose on the distant horizon of Thal, casting red light across the ship. Ryan leaned against a console, breathing heavily. I have to admit, I expected this day to be dull. Trading junk is usually boring, but this is something else entirely. Kira looked at him, her eyes glowing softly. Adventure follows preparation. You've prepared this ship for many years, and I ensured it survived the past centuries. Now we are ready for what comes next. Ryan grinned. I like the sound of that. The next jump through hyperspace was uneventful. They spoke little, each enjoying the quiet hum of engines and the sensation of movement through space. Yet both were alert, knowing the coordinates from the beacon might lead them into danger. When they arrived in the system indicated by the map, the view on the sensors was startling. A massive asteroid field stretched across the void, hiding a shipyard of colossal size. Ships of all shapes and sizes were scattered among the rocks. Energy beams flickered as if someone was testing weapons or defenses. "This is not an abandoned facility," Kira said. "It is active, and there are multiple patrols. Any wrong move could be fatal." Ryan took a deep breath. "Then we do this the smart way. We approach slowly, stay hidden, and get what we need. No heroics." Kira tilted her head. "Heroics are optional. Survival is not." The ship moved carefully, slipping between asteroids as sensors scanned for patrols. Small ships patrolled the area, but none noticed the drift. Ryan's heart pounded as he guided the craft with steady hands. Suddenly, one of the patrols changed course and moved directly toward them. The small ship's weapons glowed with charged plasma. "Detected," Kira said. "Prepare for defense. I will handle evasive maneuvers and countermeasures." Ryan's hands flew over the controls, moving the ship in sharp arcs and sudden dives. Kira's strength reshaped the ship's minor structural weaknesses as they went, allowing it to twist in ways that should have broken its frame. The patrol ship fired, but Kira's interventions shielded them. Energy fields flared as sparks jumped across the hull. The drift dodged expertly, moving past asteroids that would have crushed a normal ship. "Return fire?" Ryan asked, though he had little in terms of weapons. Kira shook her head. "Not yet. We only escape now. Offensive measures will follow if necessary." Minutes later, they emerged from the asteroid field unscathed, but aware of the threat. Ryan exhaled. "That was close. I almost thought we were done for." Kira's eyes glowed faintly. "You underestimated the efficiency of the patrol. You reacted well under pressure. This tells me your instincts are sharp. You are more than a junk trader. You are a survivor," Ryan chuckled. "I never thought of it that way, but thanks." The two of them spent the following hours exploring the perimeter of the yard, collecting what supplies they could without being detected. Kira's knowledge of systems, combined with Ryan's experience with old machinery, allowed them to salvage equipment that would have taken much longer for others. By the time they returned to open space, the sun of a distant planet reflected on the metallic surfaces of the drift. The ship no longer felt small or weak. Kira's presence and guidance had given it a new life. Ryan turned to her. "You've done more than carry crates. You saved us from that patrol, and you made this ship stronger than it's ever been." Kira's eyes glimmered. "Then we are partners now. You survive with my guidance, and I learn from your instincts. Together, we are greater than either alone." Ryan smiled, feeling a warmth he had not felt in years. He had traded all his junk for a giantess. Now he realized that the universe had rewarded him with something far greater than cargo. He had gained strength, wisdom, and a friend capable of matching the vastness of space itself, as the drift sailed into the dark beyond. Ryan and Kira prepared for the challenges ahead. Their journey had only begun. But one thing was certain. Whatever dangers the stars would send their way, they would face them together. As a team stronger than any fleet, smarter than any threat, and more determined than any force in the galaxy. The stars stretched endlessly around the drift, and the ship moved quietly through the dark void. Ryan sat in the cockpit, checking navigation systems for the next leg of their journey. Kira stood behind him, her massive frame barely fitting in the space but moving with careful precision. "We are entering uncharted space," Ryan said. "No patrols, no stations. Only the unknown." Kira nodded. "Unknown does not mean empty. I detect faint energy signatures ahead. They are subtle, but consistent. Someone or something is there." Ryan frowned. "Energy signatures? Could it be a trap?" Kira's eyes glowed faintly. "Possibly. I advise caution." Ryan adjusted the ship's speed and sensors. The drift, once a fragile cargo hauler, now carried a strength Ryan had never imagined. Kira had repaired and upgraded key systems using her unique abilities. The ship responded as if it were alive, hull plating, flexing slightly with her energy. Engines humming smoothly. Minutes passed. Suddenly, the sensors picked up a small squadron of alien raiders approaching from a nearby asteroid cluster. Their ships were sleek, dangerous, and armed with plasma cannons. "Ryan," Kira said calmly, "they have spotted us. Prepare for engagement. I can handle their initial attack, but we must move strategically." Ryan's hands flew over the controls. He adjusted shields and reinforced hull energy distribution. "I never thought I'd see the day when my little scrap ship faces a squadron of raiders," he said with a tense smile. Kira's eyes glowed brighter. "This is no longer a little ship. It has potential you have yet to see. Trust in it and in me." The first shots came. Plasma bolts streaked toward them, burning bright red against the blackness of space. The drift shuddered under the impact and sparks flew along the hull. Ryan's heart raced, but Kira's presence was steady. She extended her hands toward the ship's main conduits, and the hull responded. Energy flowed through plating and shields in patterns that Ryan had never seen. The plasma bolts splashed off harmlessly. "You're amazing," Ryan said, leaning closer to the controls. "This ship has hidden systems," Kira said. "They were built long ago, meant for defense and survival. I can awaken them." Before Ryan could respond, she touched the ship's main console. Lights along the hull brightened as hidden systems activated. Thrusters along the sides flared. Energy conduits sparked, and weapons previously dormant came online. The drift hummed with power, its form transforming from a fragile cargo hauler into something formidable. The raiders did not expect the reaction. Their weapons fired again, but this time the energy field surrounding the ship reflected some shots back. One raider vessel was struck, its engine exploding in a shower of sparks. Ryan gasped. "You just hit them back with their own weapons." Kira nodded. "I am learning the ship's systems. We can defend ourselves effectively." The squadron pressed forward. Ryan maneuvered the ship between asteroids, following Kira's instructions. She extended her energy into the hull, guiding the drift like a living creature. Plasma bolts ricocheted off the hull. Engines glowed brighter, and energy fields danced around them like protective barriers. "You've turned this old junk ship into a weapon," Ryan said. Awe in his voice. "Not a weapon," Kira corrected. "A guardian. Strength alone is not enough. Control and precision make the difference." The raiders attempted to surround them, but Kira anticipated their moves. She directed power to the engines, firing small pulses that shifted the ship's position instantly. Ryan followed each adjustment, feeling the ship's rhythm. Together, they moved as one. A large raider closed in, preparing to fire a concentrated plasma beam. Kira touched the ship's central conduit, sending energy to the front shields. The beam struck the shields and reflected, hitting the raider directly. The vessel spun out of control and drifted toward the asteroid field, where it collided with massive rocks. Ryan exhaled. "We did it. I can't believe we did it." Kira remained calm. "The battle is not over. Other ships remain, but the drift is stronger than they expect." Another wave of attackers approached. Ryan realized they were testing the ship, probing for weaknesses. Kira's glowing eyes scanned every shot, every movement, calculating paths and responses. She directed the ship to twist, fire, and evade in ways that made Ryan's jaw drop. "You're not just strong," he said quietly. "You re-smart? You think faster than any human I know." "I am designed for calculation and adaptation," Kira said. "But I learn from you as well. Your instincts are unpredictable. They complement my precision." The battle continued. The drift's hidden weapons activated fully. Plasma turrets emerged from compartments. Energy nets shot out to disable engines of smaller ships, and magnetic pulses disrupted targeting systems. Kira controlled everything seamlessly. Ryan guided the ship in loops and dives, dodging attacks while firing small cannons at exposed raiders. Every movement was coordinated, every decision shared between human and Giantess. The squadron, once confident, began to falter under their combined strategy. Hours passed, though it felt like minutes. When the last raider ship retreated, the drift floated silently among the wrecks and asteroids. Sparks flickered from minor damage, but the ship remained intact. Ryan leaned back, wiping sweat from his forehead. I never imagined my little junk ship could survive that. Kira extended a hand to the ship's console, sending energy pulses to repair minor damage. It was never just a junk ship. It was designed for endurance. You just needed the right partner to awaken it, Ryan smiled, feeling a mixture of pride and relief. Then I'm glad I traded all my junk for you. Kira's gaze softened. I am glad you chose me. Few humans value what I represent. Many would have destroyed me or sold me. You saw potential. That is rare. As the stars shifted around them, Ryan realized something important. The drift was no longer just a vessel. It was a symbol of human ingenuity and resilience. With Kira's help, it could face threats that once seemed impossible. Over the next few days, they repaired the ship and scavenged what supplies they could from the asteroid belt. Kira worked tirelessly, lifting massive crates, repairing engines, and fine-tuning energy systems. Ryan assisted, learning from her methods and slowly understanding the hidden power within the ship. This ship is more than a machine, Kira said one evening, as the two of them floated in zero gravity. It remembers what it was built for: to endure, to protect, to fight when necessary. Ryan nodded. And we are learning from each other. You teach me control and strength. I show you strategy and instinct. Kira's eyes glimmered. Together, we are greater than either alone. That is why you survived today. The two of them spent the next night mapping their course for the next system. Ryan studied the coordinates from the salvaged beacon map. It led to an uncharted sector rumored to contain hidden resources and abandoned stations. The potential was enormous. We can build more than a trade route, Ryan said. We can build a network. A small human fleet that can move freely without the guilds or pirates interfering. Kira's eyes glowed softly. That requires patience and planning. And trust. We must remain cautious. Many dangers await. Ryan smiled. I've never been good at caution, but with you, I think we can handle it. The drift continued its journey, moving faster and stronger than ever before. Ryan sat in the cockpit, watching the stars pass. Kira stood behind him, silent but alert. The ship, once a fragile junk hauler, now carried the heartbeat of two partners, ready for anything. Neither of them knew what dangers the next system would hold. But one thing was certain. The drift was no longer just a ship. It was a symbol of human ingenuity, resilience, and courage. With Kira at his side, Ryan was ready to face whatever the universe had in store, and far ahead. In the uncharted sector, a new challenge waited, a test that would require everything they had learned, every skill and every ounce of courage they could muster. The ship groaned as it drifted through the asteroid field, Milo gripping the controls with both hands. Every rock and fragment in the field could crush them if they were not careful. Kira stood at the rear of the ship, her immense frame barely fitting in the narrow passageways. She watched the approaching fleet of scavenger ships with quiet intensity. They are faster than I expected, Milo said, scanning the holographic displays. They know we have you. They want to take you for themselves. Kira tilted her head, her golden eyes following each blip on the screen. She did not speak, but Milo knew she understood. Her body tensed, ready to move at his command or act on her own. He felt a strange comfort in her presence. This was no longer a simple partnership. She had become his shield, his strength, and in some ways, his mind when danger pressed too close. The first ship of the fleet appeared from behind a large asteroid. It was sleek, armed with energy cannons that glowed blue in the dim light of the dying star. Milo's heart pounded. He had fought smaller pirates before, but nothing like this. These scavengers had coordination, weapons, and experience. Milo took a deep breath and activated the ship's defensive shields. The familiar hum of the energy field filled the cabin. Remember, Milo said, we use what we have. Kira, you can move the heavy crates to block their line of fire. Kira nodded once, stepping forward with careful precision. She lifted two massive containers from the storage hold, holding them as though they weighed nothing. Milo maneuvered the ship to position the crates between them and the first attacking ship. The energy blasts hit the metal barriers with sparks and force, and Milo could hear the deep groan of Kira's effort. "Good," Milo whispered. He could not help but feel proud. Each day, each challenge, Kira proved more than anyone could imagine. She was not just carrying crates. She was saving lives, shaping the ship, and thinking faster than Milo could. The first ship tried to flank them from the left. Milo turned sharply, using the asteroid as cover. The pursuing ship followed, its thrusters stirring clouds of rock dust. Kira's hands moved with surprising speed. She grabbed loose metal beams and crates, creating a makeshift barrier along the narrow path. Sparks flew as the pursuing ship's cannons struck, but the metal held. Milo smiled. "You are incredible." Kira looked back at him and gave a small, almost human smile. Her presence was more than muscle. She understood strategy, timing, and the rhythm of the fight. She was human in some ways, an alien in others, but wholly loyal to Milo. A second ship approached from above. Milo barely had time to react. He pulled the ship downward, spiraling between the asteroids. But the second ship fired its energy net, designed to immobilize them. Kira reacted before he could even think. She lifted the heaviest crate she could find and hurled it upward. The crate collided with the net, snapping it like a thread. The attacking ship faltered, giving Milo a small window to accelerate. "This is going well," Milo muttered, though his voice carried tension. He had fought battles before, but never with a companion like Kira. Never had he felt the combination of brains and strength working perfectly in tandem. The fleet circled, their numbers growing. Milo realized that brute force alone would not win this fight. He needed traps, misdirection, and the unpredictable power of the wreck and its unusual passenger. "Kira," he said, pointing to the cargo bay, "move the smaller crates. Stack them on the upper deck. We will make them think the ship is heavier than it is." Kira understood immediately. She lifted, carried, and stacked. The ship's sensors reflected the added weight, and Milo knew the enemy would read the signals as increased mass. The fleet would approach with caution. It worked. The leading ship hesitated, and Milo seized the moment. He darted into a narrow channel between two massive asteroids. The pursuing ships had to slow down or risk collision. Milo's heart raced, but he felt calm with Kira beside him. Suddenly, the largest ship in the fleet appeared directly ahead. It was massive, bristling with weaponry, and clearly the leader. Milo's hands tightened on the controls. "This is it. Kira, we cannot hold them forever. We need to trick them." Kira stepped forward, her huge frame casting a shadow over the bridge. She picked up a metal panel and attached it to the front of the ship, creating a false projection. Milo activated the decoy sensors, making the fleet believe the ship had doubled in size. The leading ship fired immediately, hitting the decoy. The blast rocked the metal panel, but did not damage the real ship. Milo took advantage, steering sharply, weaving through the asteroid field with precision. Kira lifted more obstacles into their path, blocking the enemy's fire. The battle raged on for what felt like hours. Every move was dangerous. Every misstep could mean destruction. But Milo and Kira worked in perfect harmony. He piloted with creativity, while Kira acted instinctively, moving cargo, reinforcing the hull, and even pushing against asteroids to redirect them toward the pursuing ships. During a brief lull, Milo looked at Kira. She had scratches on her arms from the metal debris, but she did not seem hurt. Her golden eyes met his. "We can do this," he said. Kira nodded. She understood not only the words, but the determination behind them. Together, they were more than a human and a giantess. They were a force. The fleet leader tried a final tactic. It deployed a magnetic net designed to immobilize their ship. Milo knew they could not outrun it. He glanced at Kira. "Now," he said. Kira lifted the heaviest crate in the cargo hold and hurled it toward the net's center. The crate collided with a spark of energy, causing a chain reaction that ripped the net apart. The pursuing ships faltered, their formation breaking. Milo pushed the ship forward, weaving skillfully through the shattered remains of the net and the asteroids. One by one, the enemy ships retreated. Milo could see the dust clouds of their engines fading into the distance. The challenge had been met. They were alive. The wrecked ship, once fragile and unremarkable, had proven itself in the hands and strength of Milo and Kira. When the last ship disappeared, Milo allowed himself to breathe. He leaned back, exhausted, but a grin spread across his face. "We did it," he said softly. Kira looked at him, her expression calm, yet there was a subtle pride in her eyes. She had not just helped, she had led at moments, guided him, and saved their lives. Milo felt a deep sense of respect and gratitude. After the battle, Milo explored the ship with Kira. They inspected every panel, every crate, every system. The ship had survived, but it had changed. The damage from the battle, combined with Kira's strength and improvisation, had transformed it into something stronger, faster, and more versatile than Milo could have imagined. He smiled at her. "You see what we can do together? You make this ship more than a wreck. You make it alive." Kira tilted her head and nodded. It was not just acknowledgement. It was an understanding. Milo realized that she had become more than muscle. She was a partner in every sense. As they prepared to leave the asteroid field, Milo reflected on the journey. The trade that had seemed foolish trading junk for a giant had become the turning point of his life. The wreck had become their fortress, their tool, and their home. And Kira was at its heart. The stars stretched before them, endless and full of promise. Milo knew the fleet would not forget them, and other challenges were surely ahead. But for the first time, he felt truly capable. Not because of his skills alone, but because of the strength, loyalty, and intelligence of Kira. Together, they soared into the void. The challenge of the fleet had been met, and the wreck, once forgotten, now carried them into a future filled with possibilities. Milo smiled at Kira. The journey was far from over, but he was no longer afraid. The wreck had survived. They had survived. And for the first time, Milo believed they could turn every scrap, every danger, every impossible situation into triumph. In the quiet hum of the engines, Milo looked at Kira once more. She gave a small nod, her presence steady and comforting. He knew that whatever awaited them among the stars, they would face it together. And in that moment, the human and the giantess understood one truth: a partnership built on trust. Courage and strength could turn even the most broken ship into a legend. Milo tightened his grip on the controls as the wreck sailed through open space. The asteroid field behind them was gone, leaving only the endless black dotted with stars. Kira moved quietly in the rear of the ship, her enormous frame fitting comfortably now that Milo had cleared pathways and rearranged cargo to accommodate her. The wreck had survived the attack, but it had changed. Every dent, every scratch, every rearranged panel carried the story of the battle. Milo felt pride in the ship and in Kira. They had faced overwhelming odds and had survived, stronger than before. He studied the holographic map projected in front of him. Several sectors ahead were uncharted, unknown. Milo had scavenged the stars for years, but he had never thought of exploring them for more than salvage. Now, with Kira's strength and intelligence, he realized their possibilities were limitless. They could carry cargo, explore new planets, rescue stranded travelers, even face threats no one else dared to challenge. "We have to repair some sections before we head further," Milo said. Pointing at a cracked panel near the engines, Kira nodded, lifting the heavy metal with ease. Milo guided her as she worked. Sparks flew, but she moved with care. Milo could not believe how quickly she had learned the ship's systems. It was as if she had always belonged to the wreck, understanding its needs instinctively. When repairs were complete, Milo allowed himself a moment to relax. "You know," he said, "this wreck is more than a ship now. It's a home, and it's ours." Kira glanced at him and gave a small nod. She did not speak, but Milo understood her perfectly. They had transformed this fragile, broken vessel into something that could survive and even thrive in the dangerous reaches of space. And she had been the heart of it all. As they traveled, word spread across nearby colonies and trading posts. Travelers spoke of the human with the Giantess who could carry enormous cargo, could survive attacks, and turn a wreck into a powerful vessel. Rumors reached pirate gangs, scavenger fleets, and even local authorities. Some approached with curiosity, others with fear. Milo and Kira met each encounter with intelligence and caution, their reputation growing with every successful journey. One day, while passing through a star system with multiple small planets, Milo detected an emergency signal. A cargo ship had crashed on a barren planet, its crew trapped. Without hesitation, Milo plotted a course. Kira prepared to carry supplies and aid the survivors. The planet's surface was rough, filled with jagged rocks and deep ravines. The cargo ship lay half buried in dust and debris. Milo's wreck landed carefully, the reinforced hull holding steady. Kira moved first, lifting massive pieces of wreckage and clearing a path for Milo to reach the trapped crew. Each movement she made was precise, deliberate, and strong. Milo watched, amazed, as she carried crates, tools, and injured travelers with ease. By the time the crew was safe aboard their wreck, Milo felt a sense of fulfillment he had never known. Kira had saved lives, and the wreck had become more than a ship. It was a lifeline. The crew thanked them endlessly, speaking of the human and the giantess who had arrived when hope seemed lost. Milo felt a warmth in his chest. They were no longer just scavengers or survivors. They had become heroes in the eyes of others. As they left the planet, Milo reflected on how far they had come. A wrecked ship, once worthless, now carried the potential to change lives. He glanced at Kira, who watched the stars pass by. She had been a gift when he had traded junk for her, but she had become his partner, his ally, and his equal. Days passed, and the wreck carried them to new sectors. Milo discovered hidden space stations abandoned for decades. Kira helped him recover valuable parts, learning quickly how to handle delicate machinery without damage. Together, they restored old equipment and repurposed it for future journeys. Their teamwork became seamless, almost instinctual. One evening, while navigating a narrow passage between two moons, Milo noticed movement on the scanners. A pirate fleet, larger than the one they had faced in the asteroid field, was approaching. Milo's heart tightened. This was no ordinary challenge. The fleet was known for taking prisoners and rarely showing mercy. Milo turned to Kira. "They want you again," he said quietly. "But this time, we need more than tricks. We need strategy, courage, and strength." Kira's eyes glowed softly. Milo knew she understood. She did not hesitate. She began lifting heavy panels and cargo, rearranging the ship to maximize defenses. Milo adjusted engines, calculated flight paths, and prepared for the encounter. The pirates attacked aggressively, firing energy nets, missiles, and plasma beams. Milo maneuvered through the narrow passage, using the moons as cover. Kira lifted massive chunks of ore and debris, hurling them with precision to block attacks and force the enemy ships to slow down. Every move they made was calculated, every action perfectly timed, despite the fleet's size. Milo and Kira used their combined ingenuity to outsmart the attackers. The wreck's hull, once fragile, now absorbed blasts that would have destroyed any ordinary ship. Milo led the pirates into a trap, forcing them to follow him through a canyon of floating asteroids. Kira manipulated debris to collapse pathways and block escape routes. One by one, the pirate ships became trapped or damaged. After hours of tense maneuvering, the fleet finally retreated. Milo and Kira had survived, stronger than before. The wreck, battered but resilient, had proven itself again. Milo felt a surge of pride. They had turned danger into triumph, wreck into legend. That night, as they traveled in calm space, Milo looked at Kira. "We have done more than survive," he said. "We have grown together. This wreck is ours, and so is the future." Kira smiled faintly, a gesture of trust and friendship. Milo realized that no matter how many challenges awaited them, they could face anything as long as they were together. In the following weeks, they continued exploring, trading, and helping those in need. Their reputation spread across multiple systems: travelers, merchants, and explorers spoke of the human and the giantess, who had turned a broken wreck into a vessel capable of remarkable feats. Milo received messages from grateful survivors, invitations to guide caravans through dangerous space, and offers to collaborate with other skilled pilots. Milo and Kira accepted some requests, always prioritizing missions that needed courage, ingenuity, and strength. They carried vital supplies to isolated colonies, rescued stranded crews, and outsmarted dangerous bands of space raiders. Each journey reinforced their partnership, each challenge made the wreck stronger, and each success added to the legend that was forming around them. During a quiet moment in the bridge, Milo studied the stars. He thought of the moment he had traded his junk for Kira, a choice that had seemed foolish at first. But now he understood that the trade had been the turning point in his life. Kira had been the key to unlocking the potential of the wreck. To transforming their lives from survival to legend, he turned to her. "We have come far, Kira, and we have only begun. The stars are full of challenges, and we will face them together." Kira's gaze met his. She did not speak, but her presence conveyed agreement, determination, and unwavering loyalty. Milo smiled, feeling a sense of peace he had never known. The wreck, once abandoned and forgotten, was now alive with purpose. It carried not just cargo, but hope, courage, and the story of a human and a giantess who dared to turn weakness into strength as they soared through uncharted space. Milo realized that their adventures were far from over. New sectors awaited, filled with possibilities for discovery, rescue, and innovation. The wreck would continue to evolve with each challenge. Kira would remain by his side, guiding, lifting, protecting with strength and intelligence. The human and the giantess had forged a legend that would echo across the stars. Their ship, once a mere pile of junk, had become a symbol of ingenuity, bravery, and partnership. And Milo knew that as long as they traveled together, no obstacle could defeat them. The stars stretched endlessly ahead, full of wonder and danger. Milo smiled at the view, feeling excitement for the first time in years. He glanced at Kira, who returned his look with quiet confidence. The wreck beneath them hummed with life, ready for whatever awaited. In that moment, Milo understood the true power of trust, courage, and unity. A wreck could carry them through space, but their partnership would carry them through anything. Together, they were unstoppable, and in the silence of the void, their legend began to shine, brighter than any star.